Chers auditeurs,
Dear listeners,
bonjour.
welcome to Comme d'Archi Podcast Season 5.
Saison 5, dans le monde fascinant des architectes.
And in the architectural projects.
Je suis Anne-Charlotte Deponte, passionnée d'architecture et docteur des universités en histoire de l'archi.
I am one of the spokespersons of Anne-Charlotte, who is a PhD in architecture history.
Merci
Thank you
d'être avec moi aujourd'hui.
to be with us today.
Et
And
maintenant,
now,
lundi en français, place au talent.
and Wednesday, let's talk projects. In English, of course.
Bienvenue dans Comme d'Archi.
Dear listeners, hello and welcome in our new summer series in Season 5 of Comme d'Archi. This is Esther on behalf of Anne-Charlotte. Today, we're going to talk to you about Paris's Green Belt, the Ceinture Verte, its history and its revival, based on a summary I wrote. This green belt surrounding Paris is an urban planning project whose ambition is to become an ecological continuum of freshness, leisure, conviviality, art, and an open-air sports palace. After all, architecture is as much about voids as it is about solids, flexibility, and boldness. The green belt lies between the Boulevard des Maréchaux and the municipal boundary, on the site of the former Thiers enclosure, Enceinte de Thiers. This enclosure was a set of fortifications surrounding Paris. It was built between 1841 and 1844, replacing the Murs des Fermiers Généraux. Primarily military, the project was designed with little regard for urban planning. But less than 40 years after the completion of the Fortif, talks of deconstruction were already underway. In 1885, one of the first deconstruction projects, by Ernest Hamel, imagined embellishing the area, and therefore Paris, with a continuous ring of parks and gardens, in addition to the squares, parks, gardens, woods, and tree-lined avenues created by Adolphe Alphand. The project was part of the French hygienist movement that developed between 1825 and 1840. But it wasn't until 1919 that the dismantling began in earnest. It continued until 1929. From the 1920s onwards, the red brick HBMs, low-cost housing, that can still be seen today, were built. This vast urban development project included undeveloped areas reserved for the hygienic and unifying virtues of sport. Later, in 1943, the monthly Revue de l'Urbanisme Français devoted an article to the Green Belt project, a space still vague but finally deconstructed. The space is now free to complete the fine program of squares, gardens, and playgrounds currently underway, an important page of urban planning that will count in the development of Greater Paris. More than 30 physical education centers will be set up on the land that has been definitely freed up, completing the necessary sports facilities for Paris. End of quote. Fast forward to 2001, the city of Paris launched a project to enhance the Green Belt. The aim to go beyond the image of a cut-off point and no man's land, to become a qualitative space, inhabited, traveled, shared, at the service of the dense city. Apure 2013. In September 2018, the Apure unveiled a set of plans programs for 2024, supported by the Secrétariat Général, Olympic Games 2024 mission, and DEV, and carried out in collaboration with DJS, DVD, DU, DCOM, and DDTC. These plans include the Green Belt Sports Trail, an almost 40 kilometers long facility, mainly focused on walking and jogging, but also accessible to all and which develops in the public space, sports practices, access to culture, and biodiversity. This planted corridor connects 33 stadiums, sport complexes and sports fields, 51 playing fields and 56 athletics tracks, 301 community practice halls, 96 tennis courts, 33 swimming pools, 3 horse riding centers, 5 golf courses, etc. And let's not forget the Bois de Vincennes and Bois de Boulogne, the linear forest, and the parks of La Villette, Clichy-Batignolles, Kellermann, and Montsouris, which form part of the 85 public parks and gardens in the ring. On this promenade, 7 sites are already equipped with freely accessible sports equipment. 10 new sites could be installed, each with PRM-accessible equipment. In all, some 300 items of equipment and furnishings could be installed to promote sports, leisure, and social activities. There are already multi-sports fields, roller skating areas, outdoor climbing walls, table tennis, and pétanque courts. To these could be added areas for events and sports facilities, areas for edutainment activities, urban dance and board sports, boxing, learning to ride a bike or a scooter, etc. Nearly 15 kilometers of sports course must be delivered for the Olympic Games 2024. In order to turn Paris into an open-air sports ground, 42,000 square meters of asphalt are to be greened and 600 trees planted. Because, in France, sport is never far from the environment. Along the green belt are 3 stadiums that are Olympic competition venues, symbols of sports architecture and its technical innovations. The Roland-Garros Stadium, tennis, Jean Bouin Stadium, rugby, and Parc des Princes, soccer. In addition to these examples, other Olympic competition and training venues can be found along the Ceinture Verte route. The Porte de Versailles Exhibition Centre, Arena 2, the live site at La Villette, the Pierre de Coubertin Stadium, France's first indoor multisport stadium, etc. Let's end with an extract from Robert Bergeron's thesis, published in 1936 and still so relevant today. In ancient Greek times, the Olympic Games had a sacred character. A sacred truce was concluded, effectively suspending hostilities between Hellenes, and this truce was never violated. Bringing people together through sports, that's an idea that history has given us. Dear listeners, thank you for tuning in. Let's meet again next week in a new episode of the Comme d'Archi Summer Series dedicated to the Île-de-France Olympic Nautical Stadium. And until then, take care of yourselves. Goodbye.
Thank you for listening.
And thanks to the sound engineer who was collaborating with us today.
Don't forget to tune in to our previews on Instagram at Comme d'Archi Podcast. If you enjoy this podcast, don't hesitate to promote it by giving it 5 stars and a little comment on Apple Podcast or on your favorite podcast platform. And above all, subscribe to listen to all of our episodes for free. See you soon, and until then, take care of yourself.